there's only so much time. Mr. Vidal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank all the witnesses today for taking the time to both prepare and come and present today. I know that's a big commitment for many of you. I also want to thank my colleagues for allowing me to participate in this process today, as obviously this is not my committee, but it's a privilege to participate today. I want to particularly thank Mr. Beliski and Ms. Gorski for being willing to be here today, as you represent people from my riding and people from my community. My question for either Mr. Beliski or Ms. Gorski is, you spoke quite eloquently about the Indigenous ownership and the impact it has on the communities affected by the softwood lumber or a lack of a softwood lumber agreement and the tariffs. I would like you to expand on the 9 ownership First Nations and what that $11 million in money that's tied up in tariffs since 2017, the impact that might have on the 13,000 people represented by those 9 First Nations.
Good morning. Look, this is about nation building, and as the Honourable Member Blakey pointed out, this is about building Canada, and there should be no group left behind in this. And there's a special group within Canada, the Indigenous community, that is working very hard and very diligently to create economy, be part of provincial economies, and trade action around softwood lumber just puts a big wet blanket on all of this. So the impact to the communities are significant. As the big players in the industry generate profits, so do we as we can, and those go directly back to the 9 communities that make up the Tribal Council. The impact of these crippling duties is significant, and $11 million represents $11 million that doesn't go back into education, into healthcare. Saskatchewan has unfortunately been in the news nationally around suicide. Suicide prevention is a big matter. Infrastructure development, housing is always critically funded, and huge demand on that front. So the demands and the needs are many, and non-program funding and self-generated funds are critically important to First Nations across Canada, and particularly in the Meadow Lake area with the Meadow Lake Tribal Council. Generating these funds and getting them back to the communities annually is just a significant part of what we do at NorSask. This is part business and part mission, and we need to have special protection around these measures.
Thank you. I also had the privilege of touring your facility in Meadow Lake not that long ago, and I was very impressed with the investments you've made in technology and in capital upgrades to that mill to keep you competitive. I know there's many sawmills around our country that are closing because of their inability to be competitive. I think the softwood, or the lack of a softwood lumber agreement, is significant, a significant impact on that. But I would like you to speak as well maybe to what the impact this lack of agreement might have on your ability to reinvest in technology and in capital that allows you to remain competitive and to weather the storms you have for so many years.
Clearly, NorSask is a survivor, and we've weathered a whole lot of bad outcomes over the last 2 decades. Very important to us is our ability to stay capitalized, and any kind of trade action where we have tariffs take money out of our system. So our ability to actually look to the future and invest in a proactive and positive manner is compromised when we're paying these tariffs. We have to keep up with the changing technology and staying in the game, and that involves technology enhancements. So we are very best to make sure we have reinvestment going back into the mill that keeps us on par with our competitors, and keeps us as a viable part of the Meadow Lake community and as a contributing part of the economy of the Meadow Lake Tribal Council First Nations.
Thank you. We've talked lots about the impact on the Indigenous community in Northwest Saskatchewan, but you just briefly referenced it in your last response. I would like you to also just maybe comment on the impact you have on Meadow Lake and the surrounding community. I mean, Meadow Lake is very much a partner in that Northwest Saskatchewan with Indigenous communities, but there's a great impact on the small city of Meadow Lake and the surrounding rural municipalities as well.
please.
Very true. We are a forestry-dependent community. Forestry is a major contributor to the Meadow Lake economy. Our particular facility contributes 100 direct jobs in the local community. Of course, 65% of those are Indigenous. A wonderful representation of the community. Beyond that is the woodland support. There's truckers, there's harvesters, there's various suppliers. The multiplier effect in forestry is far larger than many other industries.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your answer. On to Mr.